Hi, it's time to open up some mail. We've got 3 boxes today. Got a big one, a medium-sized one, and a little one. So let's clear off the workbench and get to it and see what people have sent me. So we'll put these over here out of the way. Now you know what's in the big one. Should we open the big one first? Do it backwards? Why not? So this is a new old stock NuTone model 2557B outside horn patio speaker. Not something you see very often. Most of you won't know what this is at this point. Some of you will. I know at least one person who watches the channel who I think has one of these in their house. And this is a 2-piece kit. There's one piece. We're not going to throw the cardboard on the floor because it's all original in its original box and I want to keep it in halfway decent shape. We've got some instruction sheets that go with it. Inside we have, it's heavy, it's big, it's made out of fiberglass. Wait, there's mounting hardware that came with it. Put the box on the floor carefully, not throw it today. We have a patio speaker horn, and this is not something that you see very often. I've been a NuTone guy for almost, coming up on 40 years pretty soon. In all of those years, face-to-face, real-life ones that I've actually seen out in the wild, maybe 2. These were very expensive and not something that most people would spend money on because they probably didn't feel that they really needed it. So what is this for and what's in the little box? Well, let's find something to prop this up on here. In the little box, is the patio remote control. And this particular one, the 2557, this is designed to work with the 2540 or 2542 music intercom systems, not any other model. And actually right here, it says on the label, which maybe you can see, it has a 45 ohm speaker cone because that's the impedance of speaker cone that those systems use. And this one is from apparently 1970 because it's got a code date inside the patio control. It says 70 on it. So this is from 1970. And the volume control wheel still moves, which sometimes they get frozen up because of the way they were made, I guess. I don't know why. They're not really that much different than other volume controls, but they tend to do that. So we'll put this back in its box for the moment, and we'll talk about the horn just a little bit. So what's inside here, and why did they make these, and why did people maybe want to buy them? Well, this is an outdoor patio speaker horn. And instead of having a standard recess mounted grill with an 8-inch speaker cone in it, which would only give you so much volume, you could buy this kit instead and mount this ginormous thing up under the eave or on the wall of your house to get a lot more sound out of your outdoor patio station. And to give you some idea of the size of this, here's a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it's actually bigger than that. It's about 13 by 10 or 13 by 9, I think, and it's more than 10 inches deep. More than 10? Yeah, with the bracket, it's way more than 10. It's more like 12 deep. Way down inside here, inside this cover, is a speaker cone. Now, these don't have an amplifier built into them. They don't have any kind of fancy electronics. They do have a very simplistic crossover in them. It consists of an entire 130 microfarad capacitor, and that's all. So it's not a powered remote station, it's a passive remote station, but because of the horn design, you get an enormous amount of sound that comes out of it. And I will do a follow-up video. I'm working on a customer's 2542 right now. I also have another 2540 in the shop to be rebuilt. One of those 2 master stations, this is going to get hooked up to, and we're going to see if we can do some rudimentary tests as to why this gets so much more sound out of it than, say, a standard 8-inch speaker cone. And to give you some idea, This is a vintage 45 ohm 8-inch NuTone speaker cone, and this is what you would have in a standard patio station, a recess mount patio station for your 2540 or 2542. The reason that you get more sound out of this, and this is a very simple explanation as to why compared to this, is because a speaker cone, so speaker cones make noise or sound because as you feed a signal into it, the speaker cone vibrates in and out, and as it does that, it pushes the air out, and that's what transmits the sound. A speaker cone like this, even with a grill in front of it, the paper of the cone is pushing against the entire surface area of the air in front of it, and you only get so much volume out of it. With a horn like this, the speaker is pushing against the air that's inside the cone. And this requires actually a diagram, which I'm not doing today because it'll be in the next video. The cone restricts the amount of air that's in front of the speaker, and in this case you have this center section here and you have this section here, and all of this goes into the design of how much sound you get out of it. If you look at the part sheet, which is what this is for a 2557 horn speaker. This is dated March 1st, 1972. So this is an updated part sheet from when this unit was made. You can see here, down at the bottom, you have the Patio remote control, and up here you have the exploded diagram of the horn itself. If you look carefully, see if we can do this so I can see it and you can see it at the same time. If you look at the legend, you have the horn speaker is number 1, it's the entire assembly. Number 2 is the U bracket. Number 3 is the horn itself. That's this part, which is made out of fiberglass. Number 4, you have the rear housing. And here it says number 5 is this cone speaker, 4 ohms. I don't believe that that's a 4 ohm speaker cone in there, but we're going to measure it and see. We have what they call a condenser, which is a capacitor. It's 30 microfarad. Not sure what the voltage on that would be exactly, but it's not very high, I do not believe. And then we get down into here where we have the reflector is number 13, which is this piece on the front. And number 12 is the front housing, which is this part with the rectangular opening. And number 11 is a unit assembly speaker, 4 ohms. So the speaker, it's back inside this part right here. I think it's back in there behind this. But we may or may not take this apart. I think this part is metal and this part is fiberglass. We don't want to break this because this is old, and sometimes when you take things like this apart, things break unexpectedly because the plastics and things are old. But I have a feeling that this part is metal, so we probably can take it apart in the next video. Anyway, this was quite a find. Somebody had this in their garage probably since it was new and it was never installed, and they watched the videos and they thought, well, I don't want to throw it away, and probably I can't really sell it for very much because who's going to buy it? So I'll send it to the guy that makes the videos and he can do something with it and put it in a video, which is what we're doing today. So this was a good find. Let me move all this out of the way and we'll get to box number 2. Box number 2 is smaller. What do I do with my knife? There it is. This is actually something that I picked up on eBay, of course. So that's where all really good vintage things come from sometimes. And it seems to be reasonably well packaged, and it came with a wall housing. So I'll tell you what, let's take it out like this. And this one we can throw the box on the floor. We have a cable, power cable. And here we have a wall housing, some bubble wrap. And here we have a NuTone alarm clock station. And this would be used with the model 2561, 2562. For those of you who have watched a recent video I made of repairing a customer's 2542, this has the same clock assembly in it that his master station has, because this was used in a lot of different models, not that many, but a few. And here's the back of it here. And if you look on the wall housing, which fortunately has the mounting brackets with the mounting screws, which is kind of nice. Here we have a 110 socket, and we have a power cord here, and this would be wired into 110 into the electrical system of the house, and that's what the clock plugs into, because the clock runs on 110, and then you would have your 8-conductor wire come through the hole here at the bottom apparently and wired up for the intercom system. This is a alarm clock timer station, so it has all of the features that you would expect on a clock like this. This is a clock that was commonly used in kitchen ranges and ovens and things like that. It has the ability to control the intercom system. It has a timeout control, so the radio plays for a certain preset amount of time and then shuts off automatically. It has an alarm, a mechanical alarm built into it, so when you reach 7 o'clock in the morning, it goes and buzzes, and that's this springy lever right here. The alarm does not play through the system. It doesn't have the ability to do that, but you can also set auto on time, so it unmutes the radio at the alarm time, so the radio turns back on, but you have to leave the master station on, tuned to the right station, and all those sort of things. So it was not as practical as it would seem. And then you have your intercom controls here. You have volume for the speaker in the station here, your intercom controls here, and then your intercom communication lever switches here. This was a reasonably priced item that you don't see very often. This particular one is from 1971, so it's near the tail end of when these models were available, and unfortunately whoever took it out of the wall took all the screws out, so there's no way to connect the wires unless you've got extra screws like I do. So this was nice, not a super valuable thing unless somebody's looking to add one or needs to repair the clock or some other thing, but it has its value. And again, if they're reasonably priced, you never know. And it's kind of nice because it came with the wall housing. What happens a lot of times, which is unfortunate, is when people take systems out, they'll take this out and go, "Oh, that's super cool. We don't want to throw that away. We'll put that up on eBay and somebody will buy it." But when they take out the rest of the system and the wall housings, they throw all this away. And if you don't have this, it makes it really hard to install this. So I may set this up on the next 2561 that I rebuild, and we'll hook it up and make it go so you can see it in action. So let's put that aside and get on to box number 3. Box number 3 is also a rather interesting and moderately rare item. But before I open it, we'll entitle this segment of this video, How Not to Pack a Master Station When You Ship It. The unit that's in this box is about the same width as this box. And this box is, in my opinion, much too small, and the risk of having a unit show up with a broken faceplate or some other damage is rather high when it's shipped in such a small box. Even though you ask people to box it properly, it doesn't always mean that they do. Apparently, whoever sent this buys things at #SleepWithCoop, Co-op Home Goods. I have no idea what that is, but like most people, they probably have a garage with boxes and packing material that they get things in, and they save them up. See? Be different. Be unique. Package your intercom properly so it doesn't show up broken. So here's what's inside, and as you can see, here's the white faceplate corner here and here, and you've only got a little bit of space on either side, and back and front. Front's not too bad, back's kind of close, not so great, but let's take it out and see what we got. So we'll take the box and throw it over on the floor. At least they put bubble wrap. That's a good sign. And you might think, oh, it's a NuTone Master Station. Well, kind of, not exactly. Actually, what it is it's a NuTone model SR9000. And an SR9000 is not an intercom. It's actually a stereo music center. The SR9000 is based on the NuTone IM3204, or is the IM3204 based on the SR9000? It's really hard to say. There is an IM3204 playlist, and if you're interested in more about what that convoluted question means, you can always go there and watch it. And maybe I'll put one of those little pop-up things right here that you can link to and find that video. The faceplate and the dimensions of all of this are the same as an IM3204. You'll notice that there's no buttons here because on a 3204 the intercom buttons would be here. So you just have program on and off, program select, which is your input, and memory recall for your pre-programmed radio stations. And like the IM3204, it only has one door on the right hand side that opens up. There are control switches for 6 different pairs of remote stations, because this is a stereo receiver, not monaural, so it's 2 speakers per room or per location. The selector switches are very simple. It's either radio on or radio off. That's all you get. And then you have loudness on and off. Loudness adds more bass into the music. System volume, bass, treble, memory set, and in this little white hole right here is the microprocessor reset button. These were not made for very long, about 4 years or so, as were the IM3204s. Not a very successful model. It was sort of the builder entry-level model of the day. It was very limited in some respects and some features. It doesn't even have a clock. When the music is not, or the radio is not turned on, it doesn't show anything. It's just blank. You don't even get a clock on it. On the back of it, it's upside down. All the electrons are going to fall out. One of the nice things that they gave you was, I guess we'll turn it around this way, is it does have the ability to have a chime module, so you could hear the doorbell sounds throughout the speakers on the system. The master station here only has a single speaker. It's not stereo, which always seemed kind of odd to me. Then you've got your terminal strip here where your speakers are wired up. The thing about how this is designed is that this main board here, which is your power supply, amplifier, all that sort of stuff, there's a lot of depopulated components on the board, and depending on whether it's an SR9000 or whether it's an IM3204, different sections are full of parts or left blank. So it's a compromised design, in my opinion. When you try to design several products based on one basic design, it's always a lot of compromise, and it's just not usually very good. This was not the first time that NuTone made a stereo music center. Let me go see if I can find one of the other ones. All right, I'm back. Oddly enough, I could not find what I was looking for, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the few that I had have been scrapped down to their boards and the rest have been tossed out, because that's the best thing to do with them sometimes. So SR9000, this replaced the NuTone ST1000, and ST is stereo 1000, and this is not an intercom master station. This is a stereo music receiver. It's AM/FM radio, has a built-in cassette deck, very fancy, and there is no speaker in the master station, and you could have usually 6-inch round ceiling mounted, or I suppose you could put them in the wall, pairs of speakers and play music throughout your house. They did make volume controls for each set of remote speakers, so you could adjust it room by room. These were actually for a while very popular, especially with builders who wanted music in their model homes but didn't really want to put intercom systems in as an option. ST1000s are not that common nowadays. We get asked to fix one maybe once a year or so. It does have a unique spot in NuTone history as one of the very few products that NuTone ever made that actually had an official recall in it. There were units that were made in the late 80s or early 90s that had a problem in the power supplies. It was a single board construction, well, for the most part, and there was a problem with the size of the diodes in the primary power supply, and then based on the number of speakers that you were driving with the unit, sometimes the diodes would overheat and burn and make a little bit of smoke, and it was considered a fire hazard, and there was actually an official safety recall on that. And yes, as a service center, we did repair lots of them. It was kind of a big deal, but not all that much. So that's it. 3 interesting items. I picked this up at a reasonable cost just because I didn't have one. And I wanted to show all of you, and it's always good to have one of everything if you can, because someday this will come in handy for some reason or another. Hopefully it doesn't suffer the same fate as the few ST1000s that I used to have that were complete units and get scrapped down to its boards, but it's got these marks on the faceplate right here, and that kind of spoils it, so who knows what's going to happen to it in the future. I hope you found this interesting, and maybe for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. Watch for upcoming videos on our Patio speaker horn, because that should be interesting, I think. That's all for today. See you on the next video.